We're going to take a look now at how to factor trinomials, which is the factoring a lot of you may be familiar with and may have, feel pretty comfortable with, but this will be a good little review. When we're factoring a trinomial, there's two different methods. There's guess and check, and there's factor by grouping. We're going to start with factoring by grouping. This problem right here is a trinomial, and up here we were used to factoring by grouping and having four terms. The goal of factoring by grouping is to try to take a trinomial and rewrite it in terms in four terms. The way we're going to do this is first multiply our a value, which in this case is 1, times our c value, which is 6. When we multiply 1 times 6, we come up with 6. No surprise there. What we're going to try to do now is find factors of 6 that add together to give us our b value of negative 5. In this case, two factors that multiply together to give you 6 that add together to give you negative 5 are negative 2 and negative 3. What we're now going to do is take this negative 5w term and rewrite it with these two new numbers. Our term is going to become w squared minus 2w minus 3w plus 6. Now the reason we do this is now we've set up our factor by grouping problem that we just did. Obviously negative 2w minus 3w is the same thing as negative 5w, so we know we have equivalent expressions. Group our first two terms, w squared minus 2w. Again, I'm going to write this as plus and negative, and we have negative 3w plus 6. Pull out our greatest common factor between our first two terms, which is w squared, just w, and we're left with w minus 2. Pull out our first two terms of our last pair. Pull out the greatest common factor of our last pair. In this case, this is negative 3. The reason why it has to be negative is because if we don't pull out the negative, we can't get the same expression that we're looking for in both of these terms. Because this is w minus 2, we can pull that out of both of those. And our remainder is w minus 3. At that point, we have a single monomial. All of our terms are being multiplied together, and that thing is completely factored. Taking a look at the next problem, again, this one's a little bit more difficult, but if we recognize that there's the greatest common factor between these three terms, our problem becomes a little bit easier. In this case, our greatest common factor is 3x, and we pull that out, we're left with 2x squared minus x minus 1. Now, what becomes tricky is because we pulled that out, our a times c value that we're going to be looking for is going to change. 2 times negative 1. 2 times negative 1 gives us negative 2. And we're going to find factors of negative 2 that add together to give us negative 1. Those are negative 2 and positive 1. So we're going to rewrite this negative x with these two numbers. We're left with 3x times 2x squared minus 2x plus x minus 1. Don't forget, the reason why this is a plus x is the 1's really in front, but we don't need to see it. We're going to group 2x squared, negative 2x, x minus 1. We're going to pull out the greatest common factor amongst all of those. In this case, we're left with 3x times. Greatest common factor between our first two terms is 2x. We're left with 2x times x minus 1. Now, what's kind of tricky, we haven't seen this before, is in this term, x minus 1, there is no greatest common factor, so while there's no greatest common factor apparent, so what it really is 1 times x minus 1. Again, we know we're on the right path because we have the same expression, in this case x minus 1 present in both terms. So we pull that out. Our final answer is 3x times x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. One term, one monomial, all multiplied together, so we know we've done it right.